Number 2. The date of Christmas probably has nothing to do with pagan festivals.
It definitely does have something to do with pagan festivals. Now, whether or not they were just directly copying from the pagans, I'm not exactly sure. But what we do know is that winter solstice celebrations occurred all over the world. In various cultures and religions, they had festivals around this time of year, and there were multiple reasons for that. One of the reasons was that they started slaughtering a lot of the livestock that they had. This was so that they didn't have to feed them and take care of them through the rough winter months. So they would naturally have a feast around this time. But there were also a lot of religious celebrations that occurred around the winter solstice. The ancient Egyptians celebrated Ra around this point. The early Romans celebrated Saturn with their Feast of Saturnalia around this time. And the Vikings celebrated their sun god Balder around this time. The reason for all these celebrations was because of the solstice, which occurs around December 21st or 22nd. This was seen as a very religious event, the winter solstice, because it was the shortest day of the year. This signified that their respective sun gods were overcoming whatever kind of tribulation they had been experiencing, and they were going to start getting better. So while December 25th probably wasn't directly ripped from the pagans, it was already well established in the cultures surrounding the area that this tradition popped up in. These pagan traditions influenced the Christian tradition. That is the big piece of nuance here that this guy is forgetting.
No one is exactly sure when Jesus was born. Sometimes people claim that December 25th was chosen as the date of his birth because it coincided with a Roman feast day. But this theory has actually fallen out of favor with many historians. In fact, according to the Biblical Archaeology Society, we don't have evidence of Christians adopting pagan festivals in the 3rd century, at which point dates for Christmas were established. Thus, it seems unlikely that the date was simply selected to correspond with pagan solar festivals. A more convincing theory is that the early church simply calculated December 25th as Jesus' birthday because it was 9 months from the day they believed to be the date of his conception and death, March 25th.
Is that what the Bible really says, though? I don't really think it is. Now, if you take a critical look at Luke 1, we can get a really good idea of the time frame in which Jesus was born. Luke 1 chronicles John the Baptist's conception. Luke 1:5 has Zechariah, John's father, assigned to a particular rotation of priests that were servicing the temple. This is key because there were specific weeks that each individual group of priests would be servicing the temple. This would ultimately put Zechariah being visited by the angel and being told that his wife Elizabeth will bear John the Baptist at the end of May, and having Elizabeth conceive between May 26th and June 1st. Now, if we go a little bit further into Luke 1:36, we will see that Elizabeth is 6 months pregnant when Mary gets the message from the angel that she will bear Jesus. That means that this particular event occurred in December. And so if we just do some basic math here, 9 months after December is September. Jesus, if he even existed and the Gospels relay accurate historical information, would most likely have been born at the end of August to the beginning of September, not December. The reason why they came up with the December 25th date is that they just pulled it out of their ass. They assumed that the day that Mary conceived and the day that Jesus died on the cross were the same day, namely March 25th. But this simply couldn't have been true. This seems to indicate that it's more of a theological purpose that the conception and the death of Jesus are on essentially the same day, not because it really occurred in history.
For instance, St. Augustine wrote, "For Jesus is believed to have been conceived on the 25th of March, upon which day he also suffered, but he was born, according to tradition, upon December the 25th. In fact, it wasn't until the 12th century that any writer even suggested the date for Christmas was influenced by a pagan festival.
Well, yeah, nobody would have suggested that whatsoever. I don't understand the point of when it was suggested that occurred. So, just to put this into perspective, Nobody really suggested that Abraham and Noah and all them didn't exist until we started actually looking into whether or not they were historical figures. And now we know that they were not historical figures. So it really doesn't matter when somebody first mentioned the possibility or probability that it was influenced by pagan traditions. That literally doesn't matter in this case.